Jump.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is Chester's Radio Network, Jolly Jerry and Star Sheila, and we are here with Walking the Talk with Kurt. I'm having to walk around to see if I can get a signal on my phone. So, welcome. I think we've got Kurt here. Good evening, Kurt. Oh, maybe we don't.
Nope, just joking.
Yeah, just to add to the excitement of this, we've been like crazy restarting computers, and Skype wouldn't switch off, then it wouldn't come on, and Anyway, we're here. Hello. So, once we're here. Hopefully, we won't drop off. So, Kurt, what do you think you've got to share with us today? What excitements are going on?
Absolutely nothing.
All right, well, that's not too bad.
Good night, everybody. No,
all right, good night.
I have some fun stuff I'd like to start with anyway,
right.
And then I'd like to go through a few definitions for some people, because a lot of things are going around. I see a lot of things in reference to the Lever Code, in reference to 12 U.S.C. 95A, and security, what security is, what actually is a security, or what it is treated as. But really, you know what, I kind of would like to stay kind of basic on this stuff. I had a really good conversation with a friend of mine the other day, Cynthia. You guys know Cynthia.
Right, sure, absolutely.
And it's funny, she said that I should probably bring this idea up because we had so much fun with it the other day. Do you guys know what the name of the monster is in the story, the Frankenstein story?
No, I don't. No, you, Sheila?
No, what? No, I don't. What was it?
He didn't have one.
Ah!
Say that again, I missed that.
He didn't have one.
Oh my goodness. That's just amazing.
The doctor's name was Frankenstein. The one, and this is why I'm bringing this up, because I kind of like to hang around a little bit on the idea of the paramount claim, because I haven't really spoke of it lately. But let's go back to the concept of Frankenstein. The guy's name, first of all, he was a private doctor working in a private lab. And what he would do is he'd send his hunchback or whatever out into the cemeteries to dig up body parts of the dead, to bring them back into his private lab, to stitch them all together, all these different body parts, into what he would call, his child or his human or his whatever. And then he would set it up so there would be an energy source, a lightning bolt from the heavens would animate this, this monster, this beast. And this beast would come to life with the lightning, the energy, and somehow this monster would always escape in all the movies from the private domain of the doctor out into the public to wreak havoc. Or at least that's in the eyes of the public, he was wreaking havoc. Well, the reason I find this interesting is, first of all, it's funny because everybody I know, as a child, you always think the monster's name is Frankenstein. But in a roundabout way, if you really think about it, the monster's name is Frankenstein. The problem is we are looking at the wrong monster. See, the doctor is the true monster in that story, not the beast he created.
Yes, that's correct.
So the true answer to my original question of what's the name of the monster in the Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, it is Dr. Frankenstein. So the real monster in that story is the creator of that beast, not the sad the childlike creature, the big strapping, hulking, oversized monster that he created. That was a very kind, gentle beast that maybe killed a little girl down there by the stream or the river by accident, by drowning her or something. I mean, he didn't ever mean to harm anybody. The problem was he just got out there. He had no idea where he was, and he got out into the public, and he started damaging things. Of course, the rest of the public, the rest of the community, saw it and recognized it as a monster, and of course they brought out the pitchforks and the torches. So I guess the reason I find it all funny is the creature that they've created is no different than the one that Dr. Frankenstein created. By the way, Mary Shelley was a child of the elite, so she might have been privy to information that was going to occur at some point in the future, if it hadn't already, as far as these citizenship, these birth certificate persons, these Frankenstein-styled monsters called the birth certificate or afterbirth persons. So, wow. I mean, it's humorous to me because of the connection. I find humor in it, but the sad part is when you start digging around, and like I said, I'm getting tired again. I'm getting really tired of looking at all the law, looking at all the garbage that people are passing along. The Lieber Code, like I said, 12 U.S.C. 95A. I mean, there's all kinds of answers in there. The Lieber Code's very clear. It says even an occupying army, when it comes to private property, it's hands off. It's hands off. In fact, I do want to say this. I've been talking about private versus public now for a few weeks, and I just want to. This is one thing that's so amazing to me. Now I've had this Lieber Code around for the better part of 5 years, but there's a part in here. Yeah.
Sorry. I wonder if you could take just a couple of minutes, because now we're simulcasting tonight for the first time on Awake Radio UK. And so there's people listening there that don't understand the basics of what you were talking about. So I wonder if you could just run through quickly your story about Harry Potter and the creation and the afterbirth. Just briefly, would you mind?
Oh, no, I never realized that there might be a new audience out there. My journey started like everybody else's, going down the so-called Patriot Road, which is a complete farce. And it came to a different understanding of the story or the control mechanism that has been put in play. And what I found, and I'm going to make this very brief, what I found that the bankers, the Zionists probably, I'm not going to say for sure because I have lots of evidence but nothing conclusive, created a system where they created a new character or a new child or a child out of what was left behind in the hospital. I call it the afterbirth. I actually call it the floor sweeps just to add a little humor. But the afterbirth is about a 50% match to the living. So I'll give it a brief analogy. So, and I'm going to use me as an example. Baby boy Curtis is born to mom, living, breathing mom, flesh and blood mom, Mary Ann, in the hospital. Baby boy Curtis gets wrapped up in his swaddling clothes and taken home by mom and dad, never to be heard from again. Not too long after baby boy Curtis arrives on the scene, another character arrives on the scene, and it's the afterbirth. That's the second child or the second son. That whatever is birthed through mother is considered another legal person. So the afterbirth itself is what is titled. So baby boy Curtis is not registered. Baby boy Curtis is not titled. Baby boy Curtis is never heard from again. It's the afterbirth child that is registered to the state. Now, the afterbirth child has some, actually it has some, potentially some, or potentially all, I should say, of the DNA of baby boy Curtis. Depending on what part of the afterbirth, and I say afterbirth to mean all of it, everything that comes out of mom as a result of that birth, I call afterbirth. I'm not talking specifically about placenta, amniotic sac. I'm calling it all afterbirth because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But part of the afterbirth, the part that mother creates in her on her own without any participation from a biological man is built around the mitochondrial DNA. Now, the reason I bring that up is because mitochondrial DNA has nothing to do with a biological man's participation in the creation of that second child. So, in other words, the second child has no actual biological father if that afterbirth is mitochondrial DNA only. The amniotic sac is created strictly by mother in mother's body. There is no male DNA participating in the creation of the amniotic sac. So the amniotic sac would only have 50% or 23 chromosomes of the equation. So it would not be a full match to me with 46 chromosomes. So the amniotic sac by itself would be related to me, but it would not be an exact match. I'm bringing that up because if they use the mitochondrial DNA or that side of the equation, then Curtis Richard Kallenbach, the title that is registered, would be registered to a child that has no biological father. That's the reason I bring that up. So Curtis Richard Kallenbach, without a biological father, is what most people would know as a bastard, what's another word for that? Illegitimate.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the bastards and illegitimate children have no rights to inheritance. There's some other interesting things about that, too. Biblically, what would you call a child that was born to a virgin or a woman that did not lay with a biological man? If a child was produced without a man, it would be called what? An immaculate conception.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I don't mean to bring in any of the biblical aspects to this, but so this mitochondrial DNA child that's called Curtis Richard Kallenbach, I'm talking the birth certificate child now, strictly birth certificate child.
Yeah.
A mitochondrial side of the equation, there is no father.
Right.
So that child, that birth certificate child, is fatherless, but it is also considered an immaculate conception. Just like the story of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So you got this child of God that is an immaculate conception. The church takes it in, and everything goes to hell after that. So I guess really ultimately what I'm getting at when it comes to the afterbirth child, the afterbirth child is the person that is registered and given a birth certificate. We are not. The living man or woman on planet Earth right now do not have a birth certificate.
Yeah. It's not ours.
Only the afterbirth has the birth certificate.
Yeah.
So, and the afterbirth, remember, and I'm going to finish this up here, the afterbirth has no, it's an invertebrate. It has no spine.
Right.
So it's considered a lower order of animal, just like a jellyfish would be. It's a lower order of animal. They do consider it is born alive, but it also doesn't have a capacity to exist beyond a certain amount of time because it doesn't have lungs. It doesn't have a mind. It doesn't have a heart. It has a pulse only for a short period of time. So what they call that is a decedent. Decedent does not mean dead. It means dying.
Yeah.
So the afterbirth child, the moment it arrives, is in the throngs of death. It's dying. That's why it's considered a decedent from the moment it arrives. So Curtis Richard Kallenbach, according to the registration, was already dying upon his arrival. So it's considered a decedent. And when people start to understand that they are not the afterbirth name, Curtis Richard Kallenbach, or any derivation thereof, or anything that is claiming to be that birth certificate person, you're claiming to be the dead child. You're claiming to be the afterbirth. You're claiming to be that beast that the Jews have a name for that character, by the way. It's called the Golem.
Yeah.
It's called the Golem. In fact, let me read. I put a little blurb together. This is from Alden Orrick, and it's just a little. It says the modern Jewish history, the Golem. I'm going to read the first paragraph. It says, in Jewish tradition, the Golem is most widely known as an artificial creature created by magic, often to serve its creator. The word Golem appears only once in the Bible, in Psalms, and in Hebrew, Golem stands for shapeless mass. Wow, doesn't that describe the afterbirth? The Talmud uses the word as unformed. So you got this unformed and imperfect mass, according to Talmudic legend. By the way, Adam is called Golem, meaning body without a soul, for the first 12 hours of his existence. The Golem appears in other places in the Talmud as well. One legend says that the prophet Jeremiah made a Golem. However, some mystics believe the creation of a Golem has symbolic meaning only, like a spiritual experience of bull. The afterbirth child is a Golem. It's a Golem, and it's used by the bankers to place the burden of the debt, the societal debts, on those that claim it to be themselves. Yeah. So if I claim to be Curtis Richard Kallenbach or some derivation of that character, I'm claiming the debt.
Right.
It's
go ahead.
I'm just saying it's interesting that they have that Golem in Lord of the Rings that's always after the gold ring. Golem, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny is... Yes. I mean, there's so much depth in those movies. I mean, again, the writer of that story definitely was an insider. He knew what was going on at the banking level.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. But there's, like I said, all of this other stuff. I'm really, really tired of messing around with, trying to figure out a way around this or way through it when the reality is very simple. They created something that we believe is us, and then they hold us to it. I go through, 12, 14, 16 years of school, public school, by the way.
Yep.
And I'm pretending to be this character. I'm pretending to be this thing that is represented by the afterbirth, the beast itself.
Yes.
Yeah, and the question would be, I wish people would start asking the right questions, because that's what it takes. It takes good questions. It takes good, well thought out questions. Is it possible that all the living people in England and in the U.S. or whatever are slaves? No. It's not possible because slavery is not allowed. If it's not allowed, then why is it that we feel like we are? There has to be a different answer because slavery is not allowed. Wait a minute here, though. Slavery is allowed in the District of Columbia. Isn't that funny? Always has been. Always has been.
So take us down that road.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Take us down that road. Why is slavery in British Columbia?
In the District of Columbia or British Columbia?
District of Columbia. I beg your pardon.
don't kid yourselves. If the word Columbia is involved, it's probably all tied together.
Yes.
It's probably all tied together. But anyway, what I would like to at least cover a little bit, I know that's an awful lot. For people that have never heard that stuff, they can go back into the old shows. Super Woo with George would be a great one for people to listen to for those purposes.
Yes, I'll let
them have that.
I'll get the link.
Say again?
Yes. Yes, I will. I'll give them links to our website where they can get all the other shows, to our YouTube, and also to George Kavasilis' interview he did with you. I'll do that later on.
I think that would be a great place for people to start, because I think he does such a great job of bringing out the best in people. But
yeah, that was a really good talk. That was a really good talk. And actually, a recent one that you did, I don't know if you did it again, but the one we did, the People's Round Table, you explained things very comprehensively there. I re-listened to it, and it was very well explained. So that's another one on Justice Radio, the People's Round Table, that was just a week or so ago. But Sheila's going to post all those up.
Well, I've been getting a lot of emails on different things, like you said about the Libra Code. Just for people that don't know what the Libra Code is, it's basically a military. I'm looking at it right now. It says the Libra Code of 1863. It's the rules, the governing rules that were laid down in the early part of the Civil War between the North and the South, or supposedly between the North and the South. And so it's basically when a military government takes over the regular government, or takes from the regular government the ability to govern. And that's kind of what everybody says, that the United States is under military rule. I think if you really, again, I'm tired. I'm tired of all these different aspects of the same thing. The Libra Code's very clear about private property. Just like anything else, if you look at the concept of private property, everywhere, under every situation, private property is protected. Why is that? What is it? So what is the answer? If private property is the thing that's protected, then maybe we shouldn't be wanting to be so public with everything we do. Like tonight, I'm on this particular show, and it would be considered public. Now, the fact that I'm giving my time to the public for this hour, 2 hours, whatever, that's granted to the public. But when I get off the phone tonight, I'm back to a private status. Even while I sit here and talk, I'm a private man doing a public show. But when I hang up the phone tonight, I'm pure private again. What people don't realize is that when they put all their life out on Facebook and all these other social networks and things like that, they have lost the ability to claim private. When you're out there giving yourself to the public, now there's legal ways that it's already been done, but when you're out there putting all your stuff out in public 24/7, you have no right to privacy. No right. The word, you can call yourself famous, infamous, notorious. There's lots of different words that talk about being recognized in the public. And to be recognized or recognized is you cannot go to jail if you are unrecognizable. If you're private, the public statutes don't apply to you.
Yeah.
This is a very general statement. I'm being very broad on this, but that's what I'm getting at, is that a private man is not subject to public rule.
Yeah.
A private woman is not subject to public rule or public law.
Yeah.
So the answer, when you're looking at all these things, because remember, I've said this for years now, if the devil is in the details, the answer cannot be found there. Again, if the devil's in the details, the answer cannot be there. You're not going to find the answer in the details. You can see everything that leads you out, but there's no answer. There's 10 million different things going on. There isn't any one thing that'll help you. In the Lieber Code, there's a very interesting thing here. This is out of paragraph 38. And the reason I'm bringing this up because it goes along with everything else I just said about private property. The Lieber Code over and over and over, and again, the Lieber Code is a military government that has not been terminated since 1863. So the United States there is a military government, and it is the war, the ongoing war that the American people they find themselves in. Anyway, the Lieber Code on paragraph 38, I'm not going to go into any more of this, but it says if the owner, well, let's put it here. It says private property. This is paragraph 38. Private property, unless forfeited by crimes or by offenses of the owner, can be seized only by way of military necessity for the support or other benefit of the Army or of the United States. If the owner has not fled, the commanding officer will cause receipts to be given which may serve the spoliated owner to obtain indemnity. The key phrase there is, if the owner has not fled. In other words, if you leave your property behind, you have fled the scene. Yeah. Are you still laying claim to your stuff? Can you walk away from it? Can you leave it behind and say that it's yours? If the owner has not fled, if you have left your ground, if you have left behind your land, if you have fled from your own ground, you basically handed it to them. That's why I'm saying that the paramount claim, the claim upon the land, the claim upon your DNA, means that you have not fled. Yeah. The key is, it says, if the owner has not fled. Now it goes on to say, will cause receipts to be given. That's the birth certificate. The certificate of deposit is the receipt that's given, which is an indemnity for you. It's your protection. But if you don't claim it, if you don't claim your DNA, if you don't claim the very thing that the receipt was turned out for, then you have fled your ground, you have fled your land, and you don't have a right to it. So you are subject now to the military government as a public person, because you're no longer private. It only applies to private property. It does not apply to public property. Public property is what the military rules over. It does not rule over the private. So it doesn't matter which government, it doesn't matter whether it's the church, it doesn't matter who it is that's laying claim to your life. If you can maintain a status of private man or private woman, that's the ego. That's where the ego comes in. I've heard so many people talk about, oh, you got to give up your ego, you got to let go of the ego. No, you don't. The ego is your only protection. But the problem is the ego gets in the way, because all of a sudden we want our 15 minutes of fame. And it's the ego that keeps us out in the public. It's the ego that actually makes it so we cannot be called private anymore, because we want to be out there. I know people that are on Facebook taking pictures of their lunchtime meal. Hey, this is what I'm doing right now. Hey, good for you. You know, I don't really care. But that's the point, is that private property is dealt with at a whole different level. A whole different level. Now, are the courts running roughshod over a lot of this stuff? I don't know that there's any real rule of law left anywhere on planet Earth. And I'm sure that in the United States, they're trying to collapse this place pretty fast and pretty bad. But I don't think that the courts have anything to do with the rule of law at all. I think that they're strictly The Bar Association has been strictly contracted by the bankers who are in bed with the Vatican. And it's all ecclesiastical ultimately. It's all religious-based, all of it. And so we're stuck playing roles in some Christian war globally. And again, if you haven't listened to some of the earlier shows, the whole Anno Domini calendar, the Anno Domini character, the character born to the Anno Domini calendar, born to the Catholic Church, the whole baptism issue, which was created ultimately by Ignatius Loyola of the Jesuits. All of this stuff keeps going back to the same place, but there's one safe harbor, and it's in the private. It always goes back to the private. The private sector, the private position, actually has standing in law. So it's just, I was going to try to go into a whole bunch of stuff tonight with the Liber Code and, like I said, 12 U.S.C. 95A. And what I'd rather do is just maybe, take a couple questions from you ladies and just so, and then I'm going to do some definitions, because if the definitions are known, if you can see a sequence or a flow, you can also start to see the story unwind in front of you. And I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, about 12 definitions I'd like to cover tonight at some point. And it all starts with the word security. And, of course, we all know that the birth certificate is a security. But what is it? What is the birth certificate? How does it actually work? And, what is it causing? What kind of disasters can it cause? Or can it save you? So, yeah, if you want to, maybe ask a couple questions. I want to get away from all this other crap, though, I just get tired of it. I get tired of looking at it.
Okay. Let me just take a minute here, Kurt, because we do have some people on the board, and I'd just like to say, if anybody has a question, if they'd like to just press 1 to raise their hand. Also in the chat room, people can type their questions in all caps, please. And while we've just got this second, I just want to announce to everyone, because we are now on Awake Radio UK, so that's why we have a new umbrella name of Nowhere in Time. Awake Radio, you can actually find the details. It's Awake Radio, all one word, awakeradio.co.uk. And the network radios under Awake Radio are Awake US, Shazziz Radio, TCT, 1800 Online, Turtle Island News, and also there is Awake TV, where they do live pulse news daily. 15 minutes at the moment, but they are increasing that. That's a very new thing for Awake TV. And there are some shows that are also being simulcast on Wolf Spirit Radio. So that's just, I wanted to just put that in there, because I didn't get to do it at the beginning with the messing about on Skype. But so we do have somebody that wants to ask a question on the board. Are you ready for that, or did you want to ask a question first, Jerry? Are you there, Jerry?
Yeah, sorry. It takes a while to wake up my phone to get the mute button off.
Okay.
But, I'm good. I think, if there's something to ask questions on the board, anyone come in and ask Kurt a question.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay. Area code 409. Your mic is live. Good evening.
Yes, this is first time caller. I'm Phil from Texas, and I'm a follower of Kurt Kallenbach's shows, and I just appreciate all that he's doing, and he hit on some very interesting stuff tonight. And the receipt issues that he's talking about is some things that other people are working in the area here, and that's a key to a lot of this. And I appreciate all that Kurt's passing out, and he's just a great teacher. So I'm just going to get back and listen to the show, some more stuff, because I know he's going to get into Black's Law. And a lot of the words he follows in Black's Law has taught me so much over the last year. So Kurt, my hat's off to you. Thank you very much for your teaching.
Thank you very much.
I didn't tell Phil to call in.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive.
There is something I'd like to ask you, because I know that last time we spoke, you were going to go down the road of trying to sort out. You were going to get a state ID instead of a driver's license. Did you go about that at all?
Oh gosh, it has been a while, hasn't it? Yeah, I got that. I don't know, last week sometime. And a friend of mine, Greg. It's funny how the stuff that I was looking into on my own, the concept of the separation or distillation, or the body from the spirit. What's interesting about going down there and getting a state-issued ID is, number one, I have something now that I could bring forward if I were to be stopped by a cop, even as a passenger in a car. In Illinois, you go to jail if you don't provide, or at least you go downtown, if you don't provide a name or something that shows that it's okay for you to be out there, you're going to take a ride in a cop car. It's pretty sad, but yeah, the freest country in the world, my ass. This place is a nightmare. Don't kid yourself. Anyway, I went down and got a state-issued ID. But remember, people need to know that, number one, you have to sign it. You have to sign it properly. If you don't qualify that signature in some fashion, or designate the difference between you and the thing that's being held in trust. In other words, on the birth certificate title is Curtis. That is what they use to put on the ID. Well, I know that's not me, so how can I differentiate that when I'm signing these forms? The only way to do that is to sign them in a certain way, or a very specific way, to differentiate you from the thing that you're carrying. So Curtis Richard Kallenbach is the thing. It's the birth certificate person. It's the afterbirth. It's whatever you want to. I mean, if you understand what it is, you know it's not you. That being said, the only thing I can be is the agent for that thing. And so I signed my ID by : and this is on the paperwork itself, the capital B, small y, : and then Curtis Kallenbach. If you can fit it on any documents, you would put comma agent, and then if you have enough room, you could even follow that with comma without recourse. But the most important thing for them to have on that paperwork is the differentiation, or something to distinguish you from the thing itself. So by : Curtis Kallenbach is enough. I also signed by : Curtis Kallenbach on the actual electronic signature. So on the little plastic card that I received before I walked out of there, it says by : Curtis Kallenbach underneath the photograph that has my likeness. Now all I am is the agent. I am not Curtis Richard Kallenbach. I am the agent for that thing. That means I control it. I am not it. I control it. There's a big difference. By the way, one last thing I'll say about that particular piece of plastic is, if somebody says, "Do you have an ID?" My only response is, I'm holding a state of Illinois issued identification card in trust, because again, it is not mine. I'm still only holding it in trust. So all of these things are critical when you realize that the level of deception by everybody involved is so horrifying. The only thing is to know thyself. And to know thyself is to differentiate yourself both through your hand, through autograph or signature, I should say, by signing things the proper way and responding the proper way when asked certain questions. I mean, I can never be Curtis Richard Kallenbach. Uh-oh. Are you guys still there?
Calling Jerry back in again. She's dropped off. You're okay.
Okay.
Are you there, Jerry? Sorry. Everything's playing up.
Sorry, but the person you called has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet. Goodbye.
Don't worry. Don't try ringing me. I'll just keep calling back in when I drop off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry about me.
So you
keep calling back in. So carry on.
So you guys, I mean, so the thing is how many people? I mean, I know everybody on this call. I mean, because I started there too. But everybody starts, hey, I'm not that person. I'm not that thing. That's not me. That's not mine. That's the problem. Is that we have been signing our entire lives as if we are that thing. So it's truly an identity theft situation from the time you show up in grade school. In grade school. So we have to learn that this is a system that was created to deceive us. To deceive us into committing crimes. Uh-oh.
And you're talking about committing crimes because we are putting ourselves in the system using a fraudulent name. That's what you mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, for me to claim that I'm Curtis Kallenbach, Curtis Richard Kallenbach, Curtis R. Kallenbach, K.R. Kallenbach, that anything beyond Curtis is fictitious.
Yes.
I mean, and a living man cannot be involved in cannot be the fiction. Cannot be This is so obvious to me, but again, the evidence is that we've been signing for this thing our entire. I mean, how many people sign a check? They willy-nilly sign the check and they send it off as if they are that character. You know, how many signatures do we put out every week where it's not qualified and we're claiming to be that character? Worst case scenario, what if that character is not even our property? Again, I always bring up the Harry Potter idea, but if I started claiming to be Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling would come after me in a heartbeat.
Right.
So the creator of Curtis Richard Kallenbach, whoever that is, or whatever group of creators, they have every right to fine me or imprison me or whatever to stop that deceitful action on my part. I'm claiming to be this character. I'm claiming to actually have access and to be this very thing, which is not possible because it's a fiction. And that's, again, I think that it's possible that this indemnification, this insurance policy, if it's used properly, should be something that we should be able to use to protect ourselves from the system. If you claim to be it, it's going to work against you.
Yeah.
But if you understand what that birth certificate actually is, it should be able to help you. But we don't really need to go into any of that stuff tonight. So.
Right. So if we've got no more questions, you want to go into those definitions you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I'm going to lay out a flow chart here. And what I did is I saw an email earlier this week, and it was from a guy that really knows what's going on, but he was following up on the concept of what a security is. And I started looking into it myself, and I had a little bit different take on it, but everybody, has a little bit a different take on everything anyway. But I looked up security, and I have a succession of definitions that I found to be very interesting. Here's, just so people know in advance, what I saw. The word security led me to the word interest, which led me to the word title, which led me to the word entitle, which led me to the word minister, which led me to the words agent and agency, which led me to proprietor. Agent also leads to the word ordinary. And then from there it leads to the word reputation, which leads you to libel and ultimately leads you to disgrace. And within those, you have a public or private character, and ultimately when people understand what the word charge is, they will realize that the birth certificate person is the charge. I'm just going to go there now because it's the word character and charge are sort of out of sequence, but I want to start with charge because it's such an interesting word. If my mother and father were killed in a car accident when I was a kid, and I had to go over to my aunt, stay with my aunt and uncle, I would become a charge under the care of my aunt and uncle. And in fact, I'm going to Black's Law now. Let me see, it's page 211. Here's the word charge. So when you hear people say, do you understand the charges? Do you agree to the charge? Do you understand the charge? Do you stand under the charge? It doesn't matter how you look at it. Charge, an encumbrance, lien, or claim, a burden or load, an obligation or duty, a liability, an accusation, but here's the key. Charge, a person or thing committed to the care of another. So Curtis Richard Kallenbach is a thing, is a charge, just like a child, is a charge that was committed to the care of another, and it was supposed to be under my care. It was supposed to be under my care. That charge, that child, that afterbirth beast is no different than, like I said, the Frankenstein monster that gets loose and out into the public. If I don't have that beast, that animal, that dog, that horse on a leash, if I don't have it under control and it gets out into the public, I am liable for it in the public. I need to keep that thing on a leash to protect the public from it. Think about this. That charge, that child, if I'm not responsible for that thing, then it becomes the burden of society. It becomes the burden of the public. It becomes the burden of my neighbor. So if I don't take control, if I don't take and take responsibility for that child that was created supposedly for my benefit, if I don't hold on to that and keep it from the public, keep it outside of the public, keep it in the private, if I don't keep it chained to me, it goes out into the public and wreaks havoc just like the Frankenstein monster did. And that's, or like a rabid dog running loose. Again, you got to keep your dog on a leash, and that is the birth certificate person. If you let it go into the public, it becomes under the laws, it falls under the rules of the public as a statute. So anyway, the word charge, you got to think of it as a child under your care. So again, the problem isn't so much that the charge exists, it's just that the real problem is who is administrating over that child. Either you are or the courts are. And that's where it gets ugly. It's not that the child exists. It's the fact that the courts have control of that child because you never have taken control of it. That's and again, control doesn't necessarily mean ownership. It just means control. You know, I didn't say I own the child. I just said you got to keep it under control. So anyway, let's start with the word security, because when you realize what it's, again, security is the birth certificate child as well, and it's a good place to kind of jump on here. Security, protection, assurance, indemnification. Oh, well, we know that indemnification is just like what? Insurance. There it is. The term is usually applied to an obligation, a pledge, a mortgage, a deposit, lien. And I go down a little further on page 216. It says security includes any note, stock, treasury stock, bond, debenture, evidence of indebtedness, or certificate of interest. The word interest is where it's really interesting to me, but it says, or any certificate of interest or participation. Any temporary or interim certificate, receipt, or certificate of deposit for or any warrant or right to subscribe to or purchase. I'm just bringing these words out because the real interesting word to me is the word interest. That's where I'm going to go next. So a security is a certificate of interest. That's one of the things it is, a certificate of interest. And so now let's just jump over to interest. I'm going to do about 5 of these in a row, and I'm going to explain some of these things. So interest, Black's Fifth, is page 729. Interest, in the most general term that can be employed to denote a right, claim, title, or legal share in something. In its application to lands or things real, it is frequently used in connection with the terms estate, right, and title. Everybody's talking about the estate all the time, the estate. More particularly, it means a right to have the advantage accruing from anything, any right in the nature of property, but less than title. So in other words, you may not have the title, but you have the right to use the property. Absolute interest is my favorite, is absolute interest. A person has absolute interest in property when such is so completely vested in individual that no contingency can deprive him of it without his consent. So too he is the owner of such absolute interest who must necessarily sustain the loss if the property is destroyed. So if something that you have absolute interest in, let's say an automobile, if it gets busted up in an accident, there is nobody else there to repair it. You're the one that has to take that burden. So interest. Interest, of course, it says, it denotes a right, claim, or title, or legal share in something. I went with title next. This will start to lay out a little bit. People will start to see where this is going fairly quick. Title. Title. A mark, style, or designation. A distinctive appellation. The name by which anything is known. Let me say that again. This is title. The name by which anything is known. It also says this is usually comprises a brief description of its subject matter and the name of its author. So again, the name by which anything is known. Then I went to end title. End title is page 477. End title. In its usual sense, to entitle is to give a right or legal title to qualify for, to furnish with proper grounds for seeking or claiming. In ecclesiastical law, to entitle is to give a title or ordination as a minister. For those of you that have followed me for a while, you realize what proper grounds are. The grounds are the church grounds. To furnish with proper grounds for seeking or claiming. The grounds, the actual grounds, i.e. the DNA, the afterbirth DNA, or the church grounds themselves where the DNA is deposited. They might call it it's a special deposit or a treasury deposit in the District of Columbia or what have you, but those are the grounds. They're actual physical grounds, just like a cemetery plot. Are within the grounds of the cemetery, upon the grounds of the cemetery. Anyway, in ecclesiastical law, to entitle is to give a title or ordination as a minister. I took minister, which is page 898. This is where it gets interesting because I think I was talking about minister a couple shows ago with some folks. Minister, here it is. A person acting as agent for another in perform. Am I still around?
Yes, you're still here, Kurt. You're fine.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I hear funny things every once in a while. Anyway, minister, person acting as agent for another in performance of specified duties or orders. A person ordained according to the usages of some church or associated body of Christians for the preaching of the gospel and filling the pastoral office. In England, holder of government office. So the word minister is an agent. It could be somebody ordained to be a part of the body, associated body of Christians, foreign minister, an ambassador, minister, or envoy from a foreign government. Just an FYI, I am Curtis on the soil of Illinois is foreign to the District of Columbia. Foreign to the United States within the District of Columbia. So a foreign minister, an ambassador, minister, or envoy from a foreign government. Again, if I'm the agent for Curtis Kallenbach, that could mean a foreign minister. In international law, an officer appointed by the government of one nation as a mediator or arbitrator between two other nations who are engaged in a controversy with their consent, with a view to effecting an amicable adjustment of the dispute. Again, as agent in international law, I have the authority to be the arbiter, or to be to effect an amicable adjustment. Here's another biggie in the public law. One of the highest functionaries in the organization of civil government, standing next to the sovereign or executive head. So again, a minister in public law, one of the highest functionaries in the organization of civil government, standing next to the sovereign or executive head, acting as his immediate auxiliary, and being generally charged with the administration of one of the great bureaus or departments of the executive branch of government. So again, public minister, a general term comprehending all the higher classes of diplomatic representatives as ambassadors, envoys, residents, but not including the commercial representatives such as consuls. Again, public minister, a general term comprehending all the higher classes of diplomatic representatives as ambassadors, comma, envoys, comma, residents, comma. So a public minister might fall under the word resident. Anyway, so minister. Now here's a fun one. Minister led to agent. Let's go to agent now. Agent was where I started earlier tonight, saying that if you sign, like I did, as agent to Curtis Kallenbach, by Curtis Kallenbach on all the paperwork, I'm signing as agent or claiming the agent position. Look at this. I'm going to start with agent first, and then I'm going to do agency. Agent, a person authorized by another to act for him, one entrusted with another's business. With another's business. One who represents and acts for another under the contract or relation of agency. A business representative. A business representative, I'll say it again, a business representative, by the way, the word business also means communicate. So when you see the word communication, it very well means business. By the way, everything is business. This is all business. Everything going on in all the courts, so-called courts, it's all business. And it's either public or private business, depending on where you stand or how you conduct yourself. A business representative whose function is to bring about, modify, affect, accept performance of, or terminate contractual obligations between principal and third persons. In other words, you're the hand of the king. As an agent, you're the hand of the king. You're the hand of the sovereign. You go in there and do all the bidding. You do everything without liability. Without liability, if you're doing this properly. And let me go now. Agency is one of my favorite words. Agency, relation in which one person acts for or represents another by latter's authority, either in the relationship of, and this is, I hope you folks get this, either in the relationship of principal and agent, comma, master and servant, comma, or employer or proprietor and independent contractor. Let me say that again, and let me match these up so people know that where they fit in together. It says relationship of principal and agent. I'll just start over here. It says agency, relation in which one person acts for or represents another by the latter's authority, either in the relationship of principal and agent, master and servant, employer or proprietor, and independent contractor. Here's how they match up. The word principal and master and proprietor are all the same. They're all the same. So you can be the principal or the master, or the proprietor, or the employer, and they're all the same. So master and employer are the same. Master and proprietor are the same. Master and principal are the same. Principal and proprietor are the same. What I'm getting at is master, principal, employer, and proprietor are the same. By the same token, agent, servant, and independent contractor are all the same. But as agent, you're working for the principal. As servant, you're working for the master. And as independent contractor, you're working either for the proprietor or the employer. It also designates the place at which business of company or individual is transacted by an agent. There's so many things about this word agency. The word proprietor, I'm going to get into that, but I want to go to the word ordinary. Agent brought in the word ordinary. I want to go to ordinary because it's probably the most important of all the words I've ever run across, and I've run across a lot of them. Ordinary is my favorite because it ties everything I've ever seen together in just a couple sentences.
Kurt?
Yeah.
Do you want to go straight into that now, or we could take a music break? And I have a question in the chat room. It's up to you.
Let me do this. This is such a short one. Let me finish with ordinary because I'm going to open with ordinary again. I'll open with. Okay, ready? This is so important. Ordinary. At common law, one who had exempt and immediate jurisdiction in all cases ecclesiastical. In American law, a judicial officer in several of the states clothed by statute with powers in regard to wills, probate, administration, and guardianship. Again, in American law, it doesn't say United States, it says in American law, a judicial officer in several of the states clothed, just like a character, just like a Harry Potter, clothed by statute with powers in regard to wills, probate, administration, and guardianship. And here's my favorite part of this. Ordinary, former term for a public house where food and lodging were furnished to the traveler and his beast.
Nice.
That's the key. We're the traveler, the living man or woman, the spirit is the traveler, and the beast is the body or the DNA, or in many cases, depending on how you conduct yourself, the afterbirth. So the traveler is your spirit, and the beast is your body. The DNA is the form that your spirit takes here in this realm, this planet, on this planet. So former term for a public house where food and lodging were furnished for the traveler and his beast. So wonderful. I'm going to come back to this because this is the most important thing. Yeah, we could take a break now, but I'm coming back to this ordinary.
Right, okay. Actually, the question in the chat room kind of relates to that. It's a bit of a loaded question, but I know that once people do the research, it is quite a simple solution. So this is from Zeitz, and it says, I agree with a lot of Kurt's message, but what is his solution to overcome this satanic system, since he mentioned the church and the banksters are in cahoots?
Okay, well,
that's what I mean.
That's a beautiful.
A short one.
That's a beautiful question. I would rather wait and have you just restate that when we get back.
Okay, we'll do that then. Okay, we'll take a break now, and we're going out with our theme song. So everyone, just enjoy the music, and we'll be back shortly.
Join us on Just Us Radio Network for our shows Enflowment, Unity in Community, Numbers in Time, The Indigenous People's Voice, One Point of View, Walking the Talk with Kurt, and the People's Round Table. Check out our website for information about upcoming shows. Just ask Google to find Just Us Radio Network, and you will find links to our website and to our Blog Talk and Facebook pages, as well as to our podcast, where you can subscribe for automatic downloads.
And welcome back again to Nowhere in Time, broadcasting on 10 p.m. Saturdays. Under Nowhere in Time umbrella comes the title of One Point of View with our guests when we have them on. They will be announced weekly. Walking the Talk with Kurt and Employment with Cynthia. We are being now simulcast on Awake Radio TV. That's awakeradio.co.uk. And their network radios, Awake US, Jazz's Radio, TCT, 1800 Online, Turtle Island News, and there is now an Awake TV with live Pulse News. So, Kurt, are you there? Jerry, are you there?
Yeah, hi.
I'm here.
Walking the talk,
Okay.
That's what we're doing.
So, and I want to thank Awake TV for bringing us under their umbrella with their network. That's really superb of them. So I'll go back to the question again from Zeitz, and he's speaking in the Awake Radio chat room. Oh, it's gone up. Hold on a second, I've lost it. Okay, here we go. I agree with a lot of Kurt's message, but what is his solution to overcome this satanic system, since he mentions the church and the banksters are in cahoots? Over to you, Kurt.
My solution is to be honest. I mean, my solution is to wake up to the fact that we've been lied to globally about an entire belief system, and people don't realize it, but we've subjected ourselves to all kinds of craziness. And my thing is objective reality. I'm not going to go into any, the holograms and all that stuff, because I know that it's accurate. But when it comes to your life, in this moment, there's an objective reality. Again, when a hammer hits your thumb, it can smash it. And so objective reality is what you see in front of your face is there. But the world that we live in now is a belief system world where we're being taught to believe what we're told, not what's objective reality. So if you hold up 5 fingers, and if I turn the screws to where there's enough pain in your life to where you'll start to actually say there's only 4 fingers being held up. This is right out of the movie 1984. If there's enough pain, if there's enough agony, if there's enough to change your mind for you to actually start to even see 4 fingers, that's what they're doing. They're getting us to believe crap that has never been true. Never been true. And the church is notorious for this crap. I mean, you're talking about a Catholic system that has tortured millions and millions of people, skinned people alive, skinned children. This is a nightmare, folks, that we have forgotten. And I'm not saying I'm anti-religious. I'm saying use your head. Start to think critically about what's going on. And once we do, my answer is think. Wake up and think. We live in a world. I actually went to get some stamps the other day at a local grocery store. I don't use stamps very often, or maybe I do and don't know it. But I went to the grocery store the other day. For some of you, you know what I meant by that. I went to get a couple of stamps. I had a couple of letters that were actually going out to some folks, and so I needed only 2 stamps. But I went in there, went up to the service desk at the grocery store, and I look a little bit different than most people. I mean, my hair is the middle of my back. I usually have it pulled back in a ponytail. And it's funny because, I'm 53 years old. Up north, when I lived up in the Northwoods, a lot of people had long ponytails. A lot of men did. Down in Illinois, very few. So it's a different look when somebody comes up to the service desk. Anyway, I needed 2 stamps. I said, I'd like a couple of stamps. He says, we only sell it by the book for $9.80. I said, sir, do you do everything by the book? And he did the same thing. He chuckled, and he said, I very rarely get anything new comes across my desk. It's always the same old stuff. He says, that was new. I've never heard that before. I said, well, in my life, I believe we only have one go-around on the planet. I said, I don't take into account heaven or hell or any of that stuff. I'm just saying that while I'm here, I'm going to enjoy myself, and a sense of humor is a big part of that. Mm-hmm. And then while I'm saying that, the other gal that's behind the counter starts to walk over. And he's agreeing. He says, yeah, you know what, we should actually be enjoying ourselves more. I said, listen, we only have, so many years on planet Earth. And we've been told that, we should suffer. We should sacrifice those times on Earth because we should sacrifice it for some heaven that we may or may, that we really don't have any evidence exists. I said, I prefer to live my life right now. And then I got into the idea that what is my life? I said, listen, this is all in about 5 minutes, by the way.
Yeah.
I said, every morning the sun rises, and every night the sun sets. I said, do you realize in that span of time, that is the entirety of your life? Your life exists every single day, but only day by day. When the sun rises in the morning, we start our day, and the sun sets at night. That's it. That's the moment. That's the here and now. Yesterday, you cannot affect, so yesterday is irrelevant. And tomorrow doesn't exist or hasn't existed yet, so we don't do anything then. So the only moment in time that we actually live is right now. So our entire life exists day by day, because when tomorrow comes, it's today. So the only time we have is right now. And when people start to understand that simple equation, when you remove heaven from your belief system, the greatest shock in my life ever was realizing when my sister passed away at 47 years old, I'm now 53, she was a year older than me then when she passed away, and now I'm 6 years older than she was. The hardest thing for me to ever grasp, and one of the greatest moments for me, was to realize that I should have been more involved in my sister's life. I should have actually been part of this wonderful person's existence. Instead, you're somewhere deep down, way back there, it's like, well, we'll see her again in heaven. Bullshit. Bullshit. I missed an opportunity for 47 years to get to know my sister. The same with my mother. I missed an opportunity to spend time with my family, my sister, my mother. I missed it. Just like everybody else is, we'll see him in heaven. Bullshit. It doesn't exist, folks.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that if we live our lives right now, if we see things as they really are instead of what we're told they are, the answer becomes very simple. Your life is the most important thing you have, and time is the only commodity that means anything. And that's the reason why we need to wake up now and stop doinking around with this farce, these belief systems that have impregnated us, have made us toxic to no end. I think the answer is to stop. Stop, wake up, and never do anything that you're told to do. Do it when you know it's the right thing. Don't do it because you're told to do it. Do it because you know it's the right thing to do.
Yes,
and and I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yes, think for yourself. That's the one thing.
Think for yourself.
And
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because I've just shared this, ask yourself why you're doing things. Like you were just saying, do it for you. And instead of and again, this conditioning thing. And I wrote a little poem, and it's a really poignant little thing. It's just 3 little short verses. Do you ever stop to ponder? Do you ever really wonder why you do the things you do? Who made that choice? Was it you? Are you aware of what makes you tick? Or is it conditioning that makes you stick to your habits, your personal MO? Are you programmed or do you flow? It's time to awaken, become aware of why you do things. Do you dare? Become conscious, become alive. Allow full awareness to revive. And that's one thing that we forget, to actually question why we make certain choices and decisions. And that's more or less what you were referring to about asking yourself. And we forget, and I think that's a really good little reminder.
Even biblically, it does say, love thy neighbor as thyself, which presumes that you love yourself first. And when you love yourself, you will do things for yourself. When they say that you're your brother's keeper, when they say that you're supposed to do this or do that for somebody because it is, no, the right thing to do is take care of your own life first, and then, should you choose to give away all kinds of things, all the fruits of your labor, do it. Right. Do it. But if somebody takes all my stuff before I have the ability to give it away, and my wife and I give an awful lot away, don't get me wrong, but if somebody's out there taking all my stuff before I have an opportunity, because that's the democracy, that's the world that I live in, you know what? Nobody has a right to my existence. Nobody. And whether I'm a prick or whether I'm the most wonderful man on the planet, it's my choice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's my choice.
Exactly. And you don't want to get programmed to doing things just because everybody else does, or this is what's done. You arrive in a society like I did, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. It's normal to pay taxes, it's normal to do this, it's normal to do that. We don't question it, but we have to. And make our
Absolutely. Yes, and that's the most important thing is the answer to the question. We already know the answer. We just have to listen to it. The answer is always there. If we ask ourselves and we listen to the response, it's there. It's always there. That thing, that voice behind you knows the answers.
Yeah, it does.
It knows the answers. So trust in yourself. Start trusting yourself.
And trust in yourself and your own natural ability to know what natural universal law is. And to hell with all these statutes and flipping codes and bullshit. And that's the thing. Once you listen to your heart, you know what true natural law is. And then that's when you don't need all this bullshit of people telling you what you can and cannot do. Simple.
I actually think, and I'm gonna go way out on a limb here, which is not uncommon, by the way.
No, it's not.
A few years back, a guy that I haven't spoke to for a while, but a few years back, a guy actually asked me, "What do you think is actually happening?" And I said, "Well, this is going to sound really crazy, but I think it's possible that we are born, and then the journey that we take, the so-called journey, is through, some people call it the matrix or whatever, but the journey we're taking, think of it as a carbon filter, the blackest, densest filter imaginable. And I always think of a carbon filter, but I'm thinking of a filtration system that is so dense and so difficult to find your way through, a labyrinth, a filter that is so populated by psychopaths and sociopaths that are in charge, that are in power, that the only way that you can ascend to a level where you're worthy of getting your life back is to somehow navigate through this blackness, this soulless blackness situation. I call it a filtration system. And for those people that actually figure it out and ascend to a level where they're no longer danger to themselves or the rest of the people, they will find their way through that matrix, that labyrinth, that filtration system. And when they get to the top, they're whole. W-H-O-L-E, they're whole, they're complete, and they're not a danger to anybody. And the people that devised the system were so smart that they put the shittiest, most diabolical people in charge of it because they're self-motivated to keep you down. So the people in charge of this filtration system, the ones that are truly in charge, are the monsters, the beasts, the nastiest of the nasties, because only if you can navigate through that system and ascend to a level of wholeness are you worthy of your life. Because right now, there's very few people that qualify, that I find, and I'm not saying I'm one of them, but I'm sure as heck trying. But when you get to that point where you understand that you need to love yourself, and then your neighbor actually gets the benefit of your love for yourself, your neighbor gets that benefit. When you realize how important that statement is, to love thyself, and to know thyself. When you navigate through that matrix, when you navigate through that filtration system and ascend to that level where you understand that, where it is your core now. You don't even have to think about it. You are actually just being.
Yeah.
That, I think that, I mean, if I was to devise a system myself, if I devised a system that I said, only the people that understand this are going to reap the benefits of this, but they're going to have to navigate through the ugliest, most grotesque system that could be devised. You know, guess who I put in charge? The sociopaths, the psychopaths. You know, that's who I would put in charge because they're self-motivated.
Yep.
I love you.
And so
I love you when you're tired, Kurt. You're so passionate. It's wonderful.
Well, not many people are going to make it through that, but everybody could. Everybody could if they just stopped and listened to their heart and they go, you know what, I probably shouldn't cheat on my husband. I shouldn't cheat on my wife. I probably shouldn't backstab somebody at work. I shouldn't probably step on their head to get ahead of them in a corporate world. I probably shouldn't do this. I probably shouldn't do that. When you get to the point where you don't even ask that anymore, you just be it. That's making it through that ugly, that matrix. And very few people I know will ever ascend to that level.
I think you've really nailed it there, Kurt. I'm totally with you with that. What do you think, Sheila?
Oh, absolutely. That's the way we were born to live. This was supposed to be our life before we got plugged into this matrix system with our control system and everything being fired at us from EMFs and from radio waves and from microwaves and from iPhones and iPads and from internet and from Wi-Fi and from TV commercials. It's all... Sorry, carry on.
No, sorry, I just have questions on you, but I just wanted to add to that. All the, like, you know, Kurt, you're reading out of the Black Law Dictionary. That's black magic too. That's been another thing that we have to sort of read through these things, define what they mean by their terms. And we're having to abide by them to get through their flipping glue. And, you know, we need to be able to walk away from all this bullshit freaking definitions, this means this and this means that, you know. Like you said, you're tired earlier. I'm tired of listening to all these definitions. I know what I mean. You know what most normal people know what we flipping well mean. So we have to go and decipher what they mean in their all their flipping laws and bullshit stuff, you know.
Oh, my goodness, this is a real rant night tonight.
Yeah.
The thing is,
you start to really see this shit as it really is. You start to kind of have to try and express what you feel about it.
But it's basically come down to the same thing, that the powers that were, the people that are controlling, wherever they may come from, whatever kind of beings they are, they, I think, are so shocked that we are coming to the realization that we know who we are. And when we stand up and understand who we are, both as a physical and a spiritual being, and work with our heart and soul, there's nothing they can do to stop us. They cannot put anything in our way because we have the power that they want.
And even to the extent that once we know who we are, in our hearts and with the power of our true beingness that you just described, Sheila, when we know who we are from our hearts, we don't even have to do anything other than break all their flipping contracts with our hearts and our spirit. You know, these contracts are all spiritual contracts. And once we break them from our heart and soul, they have no power over us anymore because we know who we are, that we're not just this little physical body. I mean, yeah, let's, like Kurt said, let's enjoy it while we're here. Like, absolutely. But when you know that you're not just it, yes,
it is a spiritual war going on. I mean, and like you always say, Jerry, we need to understand these things to know what we're doing, but you always give one simple sentence. Forget the name. Just drop the name, and they can't do anything.
And that's Kurt's just described how it's happened. And that's what, Kurt, you've done so brilliantly. You've worked out how that actually happened. You know, you've worked out how they did it. It's a clever scheme. It's absolutely geniusly brilliant, and you've worked out how it's actually happened. And now that we know it's happened and we know what it is, the case is just like, okay, we know what's going on. And I'm a private man, private woman, whichever you are, and I'm going to live a private life. And when I choose to give something and help others, I do that. When I choose not to, I choose not to. And it becomes very simple then. And like you said, Kurt, at the beginning, you're tired. You've done all that work. You've got to the point, you know what's going on. really basically just how to step away from it and get through that glue that you just talked about, that filtration system, and just step away from it.
The filtration.
Sorry,
the filtration system. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to say... Okay, who's going ahead?
Not me, I'm done.
Okay, just quickly, Jerry. Do you want to just spend a couple of minutes just telling people where you are with this? Because you and Kurt have worked together on the things that you're doing as well, and you have come so far in the last few months.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've just pretty much realised that I just want to make it as simple as possible. And given that I haven't got a whole lot of ties, I mean, I've got a few things that I've created in this matrix, and I need to sort of like sever myself from. But I don't have a whole. I mean, I do have a family, but you know, they don't need me. And they're all living their own separate lives and everything. We keep in touch. But I haven't got any big responsibilities for anyone else. So I feel like the easiest thing for me to do is just say, right, I know I'm not that legal name. That's not me. It's not mine, as Kurt explained. And so I'm just going to step away from it and walk away from it and know that I'm not the name and know what I really am. And I'm just this infinite spiritual being, and I'm a soul out there, and I'm here in this physical body to have a physical experience, and I want to try and start to enjoy it. I've spent my whole life just worry about this, that, and the other. I'm like, I'm done with that, you know. I just want to go, even if I have to go live in the bloody woods or something, I don't want to live in this whole matrix of having to worry what I might say about this and what this word means, and if I say this, it means that. And I'd just rather just go and live in the woods and live in, you know, in some nature and enjoy and go trekking around the place, because I've got to the point that I don't want to argue with anyone anymore. I just want to live a happy life. I want to enjoy myself, and as well as help anyone else that wants to come along with me or wants to learn something from me. I've just got to the point that enough already. I'm done with it. You know, I've got some possessions. I've got some belongings and some things, and I want to keep a few. But I just want to live a kind of just a peaceful life and not always be like rushing around for this and that. I've got to hurry for this, and I haven't got time for that, and all of that. So yeah, I'm just gonna just step away and just be Jolly Jerry or Jolly D. Make it simple.
I just want to say again that we do have some more people on the switchboard. We've got quite a few, so if anybody does have a question, they're welcome to just press 1 to put their hand up. We welcome your questions here. So carry on, Kat.
Yeah, Kat, talk about the filtration system.
Yeah, well, actually, again, the last book of the Bible, and the Bible is a very interesting book, but it is only a book. And if you're bound to the words within that book, you're bound by the book. To be bound is to be stuck within. Well, anyway, the last book of the Bible is Revelation. The true revealing, the revelation, the true revealing is the revealing of the truth of the matter. And when people realize that the second coming of Christ is the return of their consciousness. When we're born, it's the first coming, and then the consciousness is put away. It goes to sleep because we take on the character or the title. In my case, Curtis Richard Kallenbach. So Christ dies for our sins, and the word sin. Now this is going to be kind of tough for people to follow, but remember I said the sun rises in the morning and it sets at night. So our life exists only while we're awake. But when the sun sets, the word sin means moon. That's the definition. So the word sin and moon can be used interchangeably. So when you live by the moon, or the character of the moon, which is sin, the Christ dies. So what I'm getting at is that the Catholic Church claims that the Pope claims to be the vicar of Christ. In other words, the vicar of your consciousness, the stand-in for your consciousness. That's what vicar means, stand-in. So until your consciousness returns, i.e. the Christ, the Catholic Church has no problem running your life or doing the things for you that you're unwilling to do for yourself, consciously. So, again, for those people that I mean, and again, I'm not here to offend anybody. I'm just saying that when you, the living, put your head on a pillow at night, or when the sun sets, there's a new character born, and that's the moon, the character of the moon, the lunatic, so to speak, and that character is the birth certificate person. That's the lunatic. That's the moon sign. That's the sinner. So the Christ dies for the sins of the world, and then of course, if you quit using the afterbirth or the birth certificate title or birth certificate name, which is the sinner, the lunatic, the one born to the moon, when you quit using that, the Christ returns again. So, but since nobody is willing to let go of that name, that title, that lunatic, the sinner, until people quit sinning, until they quit using the sinner, the title, the birth certificate name, they are always living in sin. And Christ has been sacrificed for the sinner. And again, the word sin and moon are the same. So the birth certificate person is the moon sign character. Remember that in astrology there are two major signs, the sun sign and the moon sign. And the moon sign is the one that's born to the moon, and that is the birth certificate person. That's the sinner, the moon person. So either you're living by the light of day in the light of day, or you're living in the shadow world of the sinner, the lunatic. And you get to choose. And the last book of the Bible is the revelation or the revealing of that truth. When you understand that you are alive, the living, you're the sun, you're the one that's alive during the day. That's consciousness returning. When you have now put to bed all of the belief systems that have ruined civilization, you are alive. The monster is the sinner. The monster is the birth certificate person. And when you put that to rest, let it rest in peace. It belongs in the grave. It is a grave situation. The word situate means place. It's a place of the dead. It's a place of the decedent. When you quit living through that character, Christ returns. That's your consciousness. And that's the end of the nightmare. When the world wakes up to that truth, it's over with. This garbage, that world, not planet Earth. Planet Earth doesn't disappear, but that world disappears. That's Revelation. And that world disappears. That whole commerce, that shadow government, all that stuff disappears when your consciousness returns.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And again, not here to offend. I'm just saying Christ is a consciousness. It's an awakened state.
Yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely. I agree with that. What do you think, Sheila?
Yes, absolutely. We do have another caller here.
Oh, good. We got somebody with a question.
I think it might be the same guy again, Kurt. Okay, it's area code 409.
Yeah, it's still Kurt.
Hey,
I've got a question, man. If it's possible that like that, you know, and we needed to be the Christ, is what we're talking about now.
The awakened.
If any charge comes against us, how do we relieve ourselves of the charge?
Well, the charge is never against you. Remember, the charge is upon the sinner, the birth certificate person.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and again, to answer that, there's probably 100 different ways, but I actually think that somehow we got to put that to rest. And to me, that is removing it from the public, because by bringing that character into the public, since we control it, we have the opportunity to be agents. if we don't take that opportunity, then the bar association is going to become the warden or the agent for that birth certificate person. So even though it's not us and it's not our property, it is ours to control if we're awakened to it. And by controlling it, I mean just put it away, put it to rest, put it to bed. Don't take it out anymore. If you take it out in public, you're the one desecrating the grave of that child, of that character. You're desecrating it.
Right.
So that's called a breach of the peace. That's a breach of the peace. If you take it out of the trust, if you take it out of the U.S. trust, if you take the title out into the open, that's a breach of the trust. So you're the guilty party by even messing with that character.
Right, but it's always forgivable.
Well, who's doing the forgiving?
I mean, all mistakes are forgivable, right? You can go back and get judgment on it, right? Counter the claim or counter whatever.
Well, the church. That's church property. Let me go. I got a document out here right now, and it's written by Sir William Blackstone, 1765 to 70. Commentaries on the Laws of England. I'm going to read two sentences, which is the very first paragraph and then the third one. It says, a parson, persona ecclesia, is the one that has full possession of all the rights of a parochial church. He is called parson, persona, because by his person, the church, which is an invisible body, is represented. He is in himself a body corporate. In order to protect and defend, here it is, the rights of the church by perpetual succession. A man can possess the rights of a church through the fiction known as an artificial corporate personality that is designating the man a corporation soul. You are it says, in the beginning, as explained by Blackstone, in exchange for the spiritual care of the inhabitants, the parson was compensated. The parson was compensated with the assets of the church. That's the title. That's the grounds, the church grounds that you're supposed to be taking care of. You're supposed to keep it out of the public. That's what the birth certificate is. It's a certificate of title to church grounds. It's all church. It's all church.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm not sure if that actually answered the...
Yeah, you got it for me. Thank you.
Okay. And see, here's what it says. It goes on to say, too, though, it says, with the assets of the church, which is in essence the vesting in him of the church's property rights. So that character is not ours. It's not ours to even mess with. We're supposed to let it rest in peace. We're supposed to keep it. We're supposed to protect it. We're supposed to keep it out of the public, not put it in the public and not use it in the public. We're supposed to keep it out of the public. The birth certificate person is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
It's look up nightmare, break it down and look it up because it'll tell you what the birth certificate person is. It's a lunatic. It's the child of the moon. It's a moon shadow. I'm being followed by a moon shadow. Moon shadow, moon shadow. It's a moon shadow.
Thank you, Kurt. I'm gonna let someone else get in.
All right. Sorry, I shouldn't have sang.
Oh, you were good. I enjoyed that. Great.
By the way, Cat Stevens turned Muslim because he didn't want anything to do with Christianity. I'll tell you that.
I know that. I was just listening to a wonderful song of his. Oh, goodness, I forgot what it's called now. It was from Tea for the Tillerman.
What a great album.
I know.
One last thing. I'm going to say one last thing about music. I follow music like nobody else, and and I've talked about this with you guys last time, but on the album Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, the last line to the last song on that album says, and the sun is eclipsed by the moon. So but when people use the title as their own character, as their life, they have taken the moon character, the lunar character, as themselves, and the sun, the bright light of life, the true light of the world, is eclipsed.
That is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, it's so truth. That's what's happened. And you've got to let the sun shine. Let the sun shine.
Let the sun shine, and don't use the title.
Yep. Fact.
Keep it private.
Yeah, keep it private, keep it simple. That's what I'm about.
Yeah.
Simple. Just keep it simple. Take the complication out of it and just simplify it all.
Miles from Nowhere, that was Cat Stevens' song.
Miles from
Wonderful song that was too. Talking about freedom, and he has a voice. No one can tell him what to do. He can speak for himself and make his own rules. It's really good.
Awesome. Yeah, so wow. Well, have we got any more kind of anything? I think we've really kind of covered a lot in this.
Yeah, I was all over the place as usual.
Yeah, but you really actually put some points together that really made sense to me anyway, and I hope everyone else were really in with that, because you just explained everything so distinctly. It just made complete sense to me, everything you said.
I'm gonna go back to that same legal term, ordinary, because it comes out of agency. It comes out of agent. Let me go back to agent and then read ordinary, because those are the two most important concepts to ever get. Because if you understand what they've done, then you can start to see what you need to do. Where's agent? 59. Agent, 59, page 59. A person authorized by another to act for him, one entrusted with another's business. It also says, a business representative whose function is to bring about, modify, affect, accept performance of, or terminate contractual obligations between principal and third persons. It goes on to say, apparent agent or ostensible agent. This is my favorite. It says, one whom the principal, either intentionally or by want of ordinary care, induces third persons to believe to be his agent. And it says, so by want of ordinary care, that means that you are choosing ecclesiastical care. You are choosing the church to watch over you, as if you can't do it yourself. So it says, one whom the principal, either intentionally or by want of ordinary care. That's a choice, a want of ordinary care. And then I go to the word ordinary. Ordinary. At common law, one who had exempt and immediate jurisdiction in causes ecclesiastical, i.e. church. And then finally, in American law, it says a judicial officer in several of the states clothed by statute with powers in regard to wills, probate, administration, guardianship. That's the decedent. So again, if you choose to be clothed by statute, it's like putting on the clothes of Curtis Richard Kallenbach, the clothes of Harry Potter. If I put on the clothes of Harry Potter and those little round glasses and start to act like Harry Potter, then I'm going to be treated like Harry Potter, or I'm going to be imprisoned by the author or the creator of Harry Potter, because I'm not Harry Potter.
Right.
If I wear the clothes, if I clothe myself in Curtis Richard Kallenbach, people don't realize it, but Curtis Richard Kallenbach is a statute.
Yep.
A statute. And if I clothe myself in a character, I'm subject to the rules of that character.
Mm-hmm. Fact. Yep.
So I'd rather be the agent to that character than the character itself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Did it sound like I was yelling at everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think we got it.
What's that?
So,
I think we've got, you've hit the nail on the head several times this evening. So.
Next month, Kurt, we've got you down. The third Saturday is the 20th. Is that okay? 20th September.
Yeah, I'll always make time for you ladies.
Thank you so much. And next week we have Cynthia on with Jerry in Flowment, and Cynthia again giving her thoughts about what's going on in this movement as well. And then on Monday we've got the very first airing on Awake Radio of the Indigenous People's Voice, and that's with Mashu Whitefeather, Cherokee here in United States, and Doreen Bennett from Chismari from New Zealand, and they will have guests on as well, yet to be announced. But I think they've got someone coming on from Canada this time. So thank you very much, Kurt, for everything that you've put into this evening. I know you're tired, and you do sound tired, and it is later than we usually broadcast. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
No, you're welcome. I'm just tired. I'm mentally tired because when somebody asks you what they should do, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I mean, I don't ever ask anybody what I should do, ever. Because I don't want to burden them with any of my life. And so I won't ask what to do. I'll ask all kinds of questions, but I will never ask anybody what to do. And because I have to decide for myself.
Yeah, here's the thing, Kurt. We know that we all have to decide for ourselves, but I'm just going to say this because when we put ourselves on the radio and say things and what's going on, people will ask us what our opinion is, and they're only asking for our views because they haven't done the research or the studying that you've done and that Jerry has done now. So, you know, it's only fair, I think, for people to ask what your view is. It's not saying that they will do what you tell them to, but it's helping them to understand your road and your pathway.
No, that's what I'm getting at is that I don't have any problem telling people what I have found.
Yes.
But I refuse to tell people what to do because I don't know anybody's life. I don't know what they're willing to deal with. I don't know anything about where they're at, and I do know my situation. I know that I know what I know, and I'm more than happy to explain to people or at least tell people what I've found. The outcome of that is always uncertain. I have no idea ever what's going to happen.
Yes, absolutely, because everybody is in a different place, and I don't mean that like everybody's in different rungs or whatever. I mean, everyone has different things in their lives. You know, people have family, people have things to pay for, people have a lot going on in their lives, and we're all here for a different reason. And so, you know, I think it's just good that everybody has their own views and their own way of doing things,
yep.
and it's really good if people can open their minds and listen to everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Our own roots, you know, everybody's route is different. It can be similar, but no two routes are the same. So, and we pick up little bits of information, and like Kurt was saying, and you and I say all the time, Sheila, just take in the information if it sounds good to you, and then ask your big self, listen to your heart. Is this my route or is that not my route? Am I going to do this or am I going to do that? I take a bit of this information, I take a bit of that information, that one goes with me, I'm taking this route. There's no one route. That's the long and the short of it.
Yeah, you can never. I mean, everything. I look at everything because it does all ultimately piece together.
Yes.
But the reality is not the same as. I mean, my life as a private man.
Yeah.
Really, even like I said on this call, it's made public. I offer it to the public. But when I hang up the phone, I'm private.
Yeah.
And so what is said in the public is again, people get to make choices. But as a private man, I'm not subject to the public rule. And sadly, too many people would disagree with that. Most people right now think that we all should be subjected to the same lie, the same garbage. In other words, misery loves company.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not true. You know, I don't want to even subject anybody to my suffering because it's not right. If whatever I choose, whatever path I choose, I need to live with my choices. just like everybody else does. I mean, really, everybody has to live with their choices. Now, sadly, we have been deceived at a level that is incomprehensible. The level of deception is so great that we don't have the ability to make choices or decisions upon reality. Everything is based upon what we've been told to be true, and none of it's true. None of it.
Yeah, it's deceit.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But at least we're waking up to it now. That's the good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Not only just waking up to all the lies and the deceit and the corruption, but also waking up to who we truly are. You know, and our true abilities and our true power within ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the main
you know what?
To know.
Here's the most powerful line I've ever learned. The most powerful word on planet Earth. No.
That's a good one, and sometimes it's quite difficult, but yes. So thank you, Kurt. Any last words before we finish? We're just going to go out in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think we've kind of covered it, haven't we?
Yeah.
Be you. Be yourself. Listen to your heart. Simple. No, keep it simple. That's my word.
Yes, that's KISS. KISS. Keep it simple, silly. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for all the new people and in the chat room on Awake TV. And thank you once
Sorry
again
about
for
the mess at the beginning.
Yes, Skype was definitely on the wonk today.
Yeah, we were really having a lot of that.
Thanks, Abby. Appreciate it.
So good night, everyone, and we'll see you next week, next Saturday, same bat place, same bat channel, and on Monday, the Indigenous People's Voice. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night. Bye.